So it's always this finding these collaborations and this understanding of each other's body. And it's extremely rich. It's extremely rich. It was so hard and yet so fulfilling for me that I could find a language that was not vocal, that it was very physical. I never stopped, and at 18, actually, I got together a bunch of friends of mine, and I said, okay, I cannot dance maybe, but I'm going to choreograph. And I choreographed an entire show that we traveled through Spain, through different cultural centers.
Welcome to the StageLink podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. We hope you enjoy this episode. And welcome to the StageLink podcast. My name is Anna Robb, and today we're talking with Nadia Adame. Nadia Adame is an actress, writer, and award-winning dancer and choreographer. Trained in flamenco and ballet at the Royal Conservatory of Dance and Drama in Madrid, she later earned a BA in theatre at the University of Colorado. Her acting credits span theatre, commercials, and independent films across the UK, Spain, the US, and Canada. She starred in Filum, which won the 2019 Audience Award at ARFF-Berlin. As a dancer, Nadia performed with CandoCo, UK, Access Dance, and Compañía, working with the renowned choreographers like Bill T. Jones, Rafael Bonachela, and Pita. She performed at the Kennedy Center with Mikhail Baryshnikov. I love all these names. It's hard to pronounce. And won an Isadora Duncan Dance Award. Her choreography has been showcased internationally, including Marionette at Spain's Certamen Coreográfico. You're going to help me out on that one.
Certamen Coreográfico.
Oh, and the way you sounded is so much better. Currently, Nadia is writing her second feature film and her first TV show. Nadia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I don't like saying names either because I always feel like I'm going to say everything wrong. So yeah, I get it.
My Anglo-English Australian accent is not good for the Spanish pronunciation. So tell me, what started your career in performing arts and how did your training and flamenco and ballet come about?
Yeah, this is like one of those typical stories. I always wanted to dance when I was that was me. I was dancing at home since I was very young, probably around 5 is the first time I remember. I would get on tables and dance on flamenco or try anyway. And flamenco was always a big part of my family, as I had an uncle who would play the guitar and my granddad sometimes sang flamenco. So I was like the one that would get in the middle and try to dance. And a friend of my mom, actually, who was a professional dancer, flamenco dancer, say, oh, you should take her to some classes. And so I went to the Conservatory, I guess, is the highest level that you could go to. And that's how it started. Just went to do flamenco and ballet. So I was trying both things at the same time. And I loved it. It was so hard and yet so fulfilling for me that I could find a language that was not vocal, that it was very physical, and that in my head, I always observed a lot and tried to figure out how people did different things. And so that kind of puzzle really was very interesting to me and very challenging at many times. And I never wanted to stop doing it.
A lot of people, when I think about flamenco and ballet, my gosh, they're kind of very different dance styles. Right? So, but also what I notice, having been in the industry for a long time, ballet is such a great foundational discipline for all other styles of dance because it seems to bring dancers into some certain level of finesse and alignment that other dance styles don't necessarily cross-pollinate to other sort of styles. Would you agree?
I definitely agree, yeah. And I think ballet gave me a lot of discipline because other forms are not as disciplined in a way, in the sense of how you align your body, how do you work with your muscles in certain way. All the things are a little bit more free. And yes, you have to think about that. But I think having the base of ballet really helped me to get there. And for me was, like you say, they're so different. And yet they're both very rigorous. Flamenco and ballet are both very rigorous. They're both amazing techniques. One to like lift you up. Ballet is always up, 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 and flamenco is down and earthy. And so that opposition was always what I wanted to get into. I will say I'm more into flamenco. I'm very earthy, kind of like human, I guess. But they both gave me a lot of knowledge about the body and about rhythms and about how to use musicality in different ways. They complemented each other, I feel like, in a way.
That's awesome. And when you were 14, you suffered an injury, a spinal cord injury, and that must have obviously been a big shift in your career or your aspirations for a career. And yet you still have an amazing performing career. So tell us how that.
Yeah, like you mentioned, at 14, I had a car accident and I got a spinal cord injury. So I had partial paralysis from waist down. And I continue to have partial paralysis from waist down. So I generally typically use a crutch or two. Sometimes if my legs are not too up to the date, I use a wheelchair. And yeah, I mean, at the beginning, all the doctors were always saying, no, you can't dance anymore. You just have to find a different way. I think the way of imagine what dance can be, it was limited at that time. I think it's still limited now, but I think now with the internet, we are exposed to a lot more options or ideas or ways to approach movement than we were. And I couldn't stop it. I tried really hard. I tried to figure out, I thought I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. That's what I thought first. I'm like, okay, neurosurgeon. I love brains and I love things like that. And then I thought, no, but I still want to dance. I still want to do that thing that I've been doing. So I never stopped. And then 18, actually, I got together a bunch of friends of mine and I said, okay, I cannot dance maybe, but I'm going to choreograph. And I
Mhm.
choreographed an entire show that we traveled through Spain, through different cultural centers. And we just took it to the communities. And I was not dancing, but I put up my work and I thought, oh, okay, I can do that. I can choreograph. And then I come into the US, I needed to get some space from Spain for all the things, at that time that I was going through. And I just needed to find myself. So coming to the US gave me that opportunity of figuring out, okay, what are they doing in other places?
Mm. And what were you studying at the University of Colorado? Is that why you went to America?
I came to study basically English. That was the first time I came. I'm like, okay, well, at least I need to get 1 year, go away for 1 year, figure out myself, study English, and see what happens after that. So I came first study English, and then I did go to the University of Colorado, and I got a degree in theater because being a dancer was not quite open to the way my body moved after my accident. So the department was not completely open for that. And I decided to continue learning and growing. And I went to the dance department. I say, hey, would you guys want me here? And they say, absolutely. So I just went in and I got my degree in theater, which I think gives me the opportunity to learn also about storytelling and about how do you use words and the body to really share an artistic vision. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. People underestimate a theater degree in terms of how it can apply to your life and your work. But I think one of the things that you learn in a theater degree is, you know, you trained in the body, but there's the whole environment and the audience experience from start to finish, and the lighting and the storytelling and all of these layers. And one thing, just as kind of like a side note to me, when I work on events and people who've worked in events but don't come from a theatrical background, there's some fundamental basics that they just don't understand about creating an environment that people should enjoy because they haven't done that foundational training. So it's really interesting to
Yeah.
see that there's a certain skill set that brings to the world. So on that, you then finish that degree and you've worked in a bunch of things. You've worked in theater and commercials and independent films. So what was your, work trajectory at that? How did you get work? What were you seeking out? What were those roles?
Yeah, I still didn't think I could be a full-time dancer until I met Judy Smith, who was one of the founding members and artistic director of Access Dance Company, the company that now I'm their artistic director for. So it's like the full circle. But she invited me to an audition, and I came to Berkeley and did the audition. Before I got in the plane, she said, "I have a job for you." I was like, "Great, I'll come back." But I think for me, dance became something that not only I always dreamt for, but also that made me think differently about how I tell stories. And because I still wanted to do, I mean, commercials, to tell you the truth, and I think a lot of people go there, commercials is just to make money in order to pay my rent. Like, really, there was no passion about doing a commercial. Films, yes, sure. Independent films, yes. There was a storytelling, and there was a way that I had a character that barely say two words, and how did my body and how my eyes connected to the camera, or how I presented myself. That was the storytelling for that character, and I was very intrigued about that. In theater, I wanted to push myself to the things that I was very uncomfortable with, which are words. Funny enough, here I am talking to you. But I wanted to figure out what is the movement of the words and what are the words that you specifically tell? What do they have behind them? So, kind of like that analyzing brain of not just say a word, but what is behind it and what is the tone that you say them, and all that to me is like movement. It's like moving the body and figuring out how all of these goes together to the audience. So I felt that all theater, film, writing, everything is kind of complementary to each other, and it supports each other. And I love growing. I love learning new things. I love challenging myself. Although sometimes I get very frustrated, of course. But I really like that challenge, and I look for it and I crave it many
Mm.
times.
And for those who don't know Access Dance Company, explain to everyone what they do, what kind of works they produce, and where they tour to.
Yeah, Access Dance Company is an integrated dance company with professional dancers that are disabled, non-disabled, deaf, and neurodivergent. We have been in more than 100 cities around the world. We represented the US at the Dubai World Expo. We have been in Mexico, Germany. We did the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games in Dusseldorf, Germany in 2023 at the stadium. And for those that don't know, Invictus Games is for veterans. It's a sports event for veterans. The Prince Harry got together in 2014. And so the company has been, we've been touring around professional dance pieces. And it's one of the few companies in the world that has full-time dancers with benefits, and they are disabled and non-disabled collaborating together to create great art. The company started in 1987 with a group of friends getting in a studio and figuring out, some of them were disabled and some of them were not, and try to figure out what does this mean that we have different bodies? How can we dance together? And Judy Smith, who was one of those members, decided in 1997 to get the company to the next level. And she's the one that really pushed the company to be in the mainstream dance field. So
Mm.
for those of the listeners that are not aware, we're in Berkeley, California in the United States. And we travel all over the world. Yeah. And we teach. We also do a lot of teacher training on how to be more accessible in dance and in the performing arts. We teach a lot of community integrated dance. We teach kids, adults, professionals, not professionals. We have a Choreo Lab fellowship that we push every year to support disabled choreographers. So they come and work with us for 2 weeks and they get paid for it. And they have that opportunity of searching what movement is for them and what artistic vision they have for themselves. And that's only for disabled choreographers because other choreographic fellowships do not accept disabled choreographers. So we're very focused on supporting that. And we have a week summer intensive. And yeah, just I think our website sets it all, accessdance.org. If I may plug it in there.
Of course you can. Of course you can. So as artistic director now, like, what is it that what do you feel the combination of able-bodied and then also disabled bodies in terms of a creative process? How do you develop work? What sort of in my mind, I think a lot of people, if they come from different perspectives, like disabled or able-bodied, they're bringing different food to the table, right, for that creative process.
Yeah.
So how do you curate that? What's your creative process, and what decides or drives your decision on a piece of work?
I think for me, what I have found through the years, and maybe I'm biased because I'm part of the disabled community, is that the integration of disabled, non-disabled dancers actually is a lot richer because of what you're mentioning. There are so many different perspectives to one thing. And we do a lot what is called translation of movement. So a movement that somebody, might do with their lower limb or their leg, somebody else might do it with their upper limb or their arm. And one is as beautiful as the other one, as long as the intention is the same. The body part is different, and that's okay. I think that gives us a lot more points of contact and perspectives to movements. And it's really funny because sometimes when I choreograph something with my crutches, the rest of actually no, now we have one dancer, but the rest of the dancers, the non-disabled dancers, don't have the crutch to lean on. And sometimes I do these really weird angles and they have to think, oh, how do I do that? I don't have that option. So it's always this finding these collaborations and this understanding of each other's body. And it's extremely rich. It's extremely rich.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
playful, I would guess, right?
Yes. Yes. Sometimes they laugh at me. They're like, Nadia, we can't do that. And sometimes I say, oh, I imagine this movement. Can you do it? And they're like, all right, I don't know. Let's try it and see. Yeah.
That's
And sometimes
amazing.
it's also frustrating, we'll say. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's jazz in general.
As in any creative process, there is always limitations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to go back to the film, which won an audience award. How did that come about, and what did you do in that?
I was acting in it and it just came about. I did an audition. I don't know. Sometimes you just do all these things and you're like, I don't know, but I'm just going to try it. And I've been wanting to I've been doing film for a while and I was living in Canada and I didn't have a lot of opportunities. So I saw this audition. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go and do it. And it was great. It was young filmmakers doing it. They were very open to suggestions. But also they were very intelligent about the way they approached film. It was a short experience, but it was really rich for me. Yeah.
Mm. And I guess in the dabbling of acting as well as your dance career, but you never formally trained, I guess, in acting. Or in your theatre degree, did you do acting in that as well, or was
I
it?
did, yeah, I did some classes. Yeah, I didn't have a BFA, what they call in the United States, a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts. So my focus was not acting. I had a education of all theater, all around acting, writing, scene design, lighting, yeah. But I love performing.
Once it, there's on stage people and there's backstage people. I'm the
I
backstage. You're
know.
You've collaborated with quite renowned choreographers and performed worldwide. Is there like a performance or a partnership that stands out for you as a defining moment in your career thus far?
Hmm. Yes. Access, of course, was a big thing for me because that's when I realized, okay, yes, I can dance again. Because I was in the audition with other people who were wheelchair users and wheelchair dancers that use wheelchairs, and I thought, okay, I can do these. So that was big for me. But I think the biggest thing was, besides having my own company for 10 years with my partner, it was working with a company in Spain. And because they were not an integrated dance company, they had all non-disabled dancers. And they approach me and they say, hey, we're thinking about doing a project about this, about how people just, their passion just doesn't let them move away from what they want. And it was a phone call that came out of nowhere. And they say, we just want you in the piece. And I thought, oh, wait a second, you are the so-called mainstream dance company, very, very amazing choreographer. And you want me? What? So that for me was a place where I thought, okay, if somebody who is not from the disability community wants to work with me, then there is something that
Mm.
I can provide in the field. So I think that was a very special moment for me. Yeah.
And what was that work? What was the result of that phone call?
Yeah, we did. We did. I was part of a full evening piece, and then we did touring.
Wow.
So we toured Spain, and we wish we could have gone to more places, but then the company dissolved right after for different reasons, but nothing to do with that piece or with me. I'll say that right now.
What were your on that point, I think that it's kind of you have made a career despite those circumstances, and it is a lovely message to people who are working in the arts that might have some things in their life that hold them back. What would your advice be in the industry that people, if they feel they're marginalized because of either whether it be a race or their ability or any other kind of thing that might set them back from so-called, standard trajectory in a performing arts career? What would you advise those people who are really passionate about what they do and want to be in the industry?
I think uh, I have this sign on the other side of my computer where I can look at it when I need to. And I think I read it somewhere, so I'm not gonna take full credit from this, but I also don't know who said it or where I read it, but it really got stuck in my head. And it says, if something is important for you, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And that really sticks with me every time I look at it because sometimes I'm like, oh, I really want to write this play or I really want to do this piece, and then I don't do anything about it. And then I look at it, I'm like, oh, was it important enough for me or not? So maybe I'm creating excuses. I'm too tired. I have this other job. I'm doing this thing. Da, da. So do I find excuses for it? And sometimes those excuses are actually things that people put from the outside to you that it's not you putting them, like, being discriminated against for different reasons. So I do understand that too. And I think if you're creative nowadays, you can do things. You can create your own work. You can talk to a friend who might be a choreographer if you don't want to choreograph. Hey, could you choreograph a solo for me? Hey, could we choreograph a duet? Could we travel? Could we do small little performances that then they keep on growing? That's how Axis started. That's how I started doing those little things by myself because nobody else was going to support me. So I think that we should be able as creative people to make those avenues that happen for us. And sometimes you have to break those barriers that nobody else has broken, or there's somebody else before you try to chip away a little bit of it, but the wall is not totally down yet. and you have to be part of that. I also think that it's not only for yourself, but it's for the people that comes behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's been quite a lot of dialogue about this, say, in the last 5 to 6, 7 years. Do you think that since your career started to now that there's been an opening and a progression? I mean, obviously, there's always more and more that's possible, but do you feel like that, say, from when you started to now, people do see those as avenues or ways to be in a career, accommodate people with certain access needs, et cetera, et cetera?
I think so. I think people are a little bit more open or more aware. Maybe I'll say more aware
Mm.
of it. And I have to say the internet has played a big role on that because now we can experience each other's art through the internet. I might not be able to go to the UK to see Stop Gap, but I can possibly see some of their work online. Or people cannot see our work in person at Access, but they can get on the internet and try to figure out a few things, right? So I think people are more aware of it. I think we still have a long way to go. I think companies like us, people are trying to put us in a box and say, okay, you can go to this festival because this one is the accessible festival, international
Yeah.
festival. And you're like, no, but what I want to do is to be in the big one. And we still have those barriers that we're trying to break.
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember when I was dancing for Axis, there was a critic that since then has changed their mind. I will not say names or anything, but I remember them saying, I don't want to go and see Axis because what you do is not real dance. And that specific work that we were presented, yeah, I know, rolling our eyes. That specific work we were doing had Bill T. Jones, who is one of the biggest choreographers in the US. We had Stephen Petronio. Like, we had these amazing choreographers, internationally known, with us creating work. And the critics still did not want to come see it because they thought being disabled on a stage is not the right thing or it's not the dance thing to do. Since then, they have changed their mind, but it took them a good few years to actually put themselves in that situation and going to see our work. So it takes some moments and it takes time, and I think it needs to take a lot of us.
Yeah. And also, I guess, the education of that what is art and what is artistic expression. If he was,
Hmm.
that was kind of, that sounds, I rolled my eyes a little bit because it's like, it's kind of ignorant statement to say that the dance, it's not real dance. What is it, the level of performance that you're looking for? Well, art
Hmm.
is expressed in many different ways. And the storytelling and what moves people has got nothing to do necessarily with, physical ability. It's so fascinating. And, I think that, to your point about the internet and everything, and it's something that I thought about a lot. And to your point about people staying in the industry and doing what they love and finding a way, I have worked with many artists for more than 25 years now. And an artist is an artist is an artist, right?
Yeah.
They're going to create whether they're paid for it or not. They're going to create whether they do another job on the side or not. They're going to
Yeah.
just have to be, and they have to express themselves that way. And I think that's so beautiful when artists are part of the world. And I always think about the pandemic because there was sort of some part of the industry that were on their butts complaining about the world and not being able to perform. And then there was the artists making stuff and little
Yeah.
videos and creating things and connecting. And despite these little flowers that just keep growing no matter what the circumstances are. And I think, to your point about finding a way, is if that's part of your DNA to be an artist and a creative person, then you have to keep that in your life, whatever manifestation that is. Um,
Yeah.
because that's who you are, right?
Yeah. I think the dangerous part of the internet, I'll say this, and I'm sure everybody is thinking about it too, is that I think it also puts a lot of pressure on people to be like the next thing. I want to be the next thing on dance. So there's a lot of pressure on that too, that people need to release from themselves. So if you are, like you're saying, an artist, you're not looking necessarily, of course, you're looking to make money in order to pay your bills with what you love doing. And at the same time, we need to take the pressure off. We always have to be the best at everything, which I think is the danger of internet too right now, is that you have to be on the top 10 people that everybody looks at. You have to become a sensation, and that's how you make it. But I don't think so. I think the true art is for, yeah, I've had 3 jobs just to support myself, to do what I love doing, my arts. I've cleaned houses, I've done all these things. It's
Yeah.
if you truly love the art of it, you'll find the way and not
And
the
a career in
excuse.
the art is therefore a marathon, not a sprint, right? Like
Yes.
if you're looking for that quick fame and trajectory, and I often say that to a lot of younger people, like it's a craft and it cultivates over many years and you
Yes.
compound on those things. And sometimes those are big, amazing, flashy things. And sometimes those are small little projects that you're doing on the side. And all of that makes up a tapestry that is your career. And that's what you should understand about that career. You're not always going to be shining in the spotlight 24/7. And who would want to? Because that would be exhausting.
Yeah, I no, no, thank you.
So we always ask these last 2 questions at the end of our podcast, Nadia. So I'm going to ask them to you now.
Okay.
What's your most favorite thing about your job or the industry?
My favorite thing about it? Oof. As a performer, I would say my favorite thing is just lose myself in the work.
Mm.
Yeah. Like when I perform, I literally enter a different world. And I love that sensation. I just love it. It fills me. Yeah.
Time stops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I love that you said that because I think when you're in that moment, I think that's when you know you're doing what you're supposed to do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember I have these little moments where I really tell myself, remember this moment, remember this moment. And I remember when I danced with Mikhail Baryshnikov at the Kennedy Center. And I was on the wings and I was like, listen, this is one of the best dancers in history. And I'm dancing a trio with him. I have to remember this for the rest of my life and this sensation that I have. And I remember my first step on the stage off the wings every time. I'm like, that's what I want to feel every time.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I love that description. On the flip side, if you could change one thing about your job or the industry, what would that be?
I think people need to get more compensation financially or more financial support to be able to do it full on. Because I think many of us have, like I say, 3 jobs in order just to pay our bills, not even to go to Barbados for a vacation, but just to pay our bill. I mean, I wish it was just for the Barbados, but I think financially, the dance field is still very much behind a lot of other fields. And we create a lot of things for people. We make a lot of people happy. We work, medical field is working with dance now because they realize the movement is a great connection to the brain and to the health of the brain and the health of the physical body. So I was teaching not too long ago at Stanford University in California, and I was working with the medicine department about how to listen to people's body and how to be attuned with that and how to use it for the benefit of their mental health and physical health. And I think dance has so much to offer, but we are not being recognized as that. And I wish dancers could get paid living salary. And I'm not talking about ballet dancers because those ones do get it, but I'm talking about everybody else in the field. I think that would make people really dedicate their full on to the arts, and everything will grow a little bit more, especially now, because now in many countries, and especially in this country, funding is being very much difficult for the dance field. And for a dance field like mine, that is more specific, in which we have disabled and non-disabled dancers, that's even worse right now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's generally like a global trend. I think, the States is on that way, but like in terms of government funding, that's a trend across the world, and funding across the board for the arts is, up and down and generally on a decline. And there's more corporate sponsorship and different ways, but then that can also drive what type of work gets made because of the agendas behind different financial support behind the projects. So yeah, that's it. I agree 100%. Nadia, thank you so much. What a pleasure to hang out with you on the StageLink podcast today. Congratulations on all of the work that you've done, and I wish you best for the coming years with Access Dance Company. And I look forward to hopefully seeing a performance at some point when I'm in the States.
Oh, thank you
I would
so
love that.
much. Yeah, I love that too. Thank you so much for this chat. It's been, it's wonderful. And it's an honor to be in your podcast. So I really appreciate that you contacted me. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadia. Thank you for listening to the StageLink podcast. StageLink is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLink Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLink podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLink Pro membership. Visit us at stagelink.com, and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLink, that's StagelYnc.com.